my name's Chantel and welcome to my second YouTube video. I thought for my second one I would do a bit of a reading vlog. I've been really into watching reading vlogs recently, so I thought why not do my own. So I thought for this one I would show like the full process. So I go to the bookshop, buy my books, come back, talk you through them and then read them myself and then let you know what I thought. So my first stop was going to the bookshop, and I live in Manchester, and I think that the Waterstones on Deansgate is actually the biggest Waterstones in the north, so I love going there. I actually took my mum with me and I got her to film me walking around the bookshop looking at some of the books, and I was so embarrassed walking around because obviously I've never done anything like that before, like I filmed myself looking at books, so I was a bit embarrassed. But my mum assured me that no one was watching, that no one was paying any attention to me. So yeah, if I look a bit awkward in these videos, that's why, because I was a little bit embarrassed. So I'll just quickly insert those clips here. So when I was there, I picked up 2 books. I was actually looking for a few more, but they didn't have them for some reason, which was unusual because, like I said, it's one of the biggest in the north. But I'm happy with the books that I got. So the 2 books that I managed to pick up is this one, Happy Hour by Marlo Granados, and then this one, The Trees by Percival Everett. So I'll talk about this one first. I actually didn't know what this one was about. I think I was watching one of Jack Edwards' reading vlogs and he read it and said that he loved it. So I immediately went to Waterstones and picked it up, but I actually didn't read the blurb or anything about it. So if you're interested in reading this book and don't want to be like me and actually want to hear what it's about, I'll read you the blurb. Isa Eppley, all of 21 years old, is already wise enough to understand that the purpose of life is the pursuit of pleasure. She arrives in New York with her newly blonde best friend looking for adventure. They have little money, but that's hardly going to stop them. By day, the girls sell clothes on a market stall, pinching pennies for their bedstay sublets and bodega lunches. By night, they weave between Brooklyn, the Upper East Side, and the Hamptons among a rotating cast of celebrities, artists, internet entrepreneurs, stuffy intellectuals, and bad-mannered grifters. Resources run ever tighter, and the strain tests their friendship as they try to convert social capital into something more lasting than precarious gigs as au pairs, nightclub hostesses, paid audience members, and aspiring foot fetish models. Through it all, Isa's bold, beguiling voice captures the precise thrill of cultivating a life of glamour and intrigue as she juggles paying her dues with skipping out on the bill. Happy Hour is a novel about getting by and having fun in a system that wants you to do neither. So I think this book sounds really fun. It's actually not something that I would normally gravitate towards, like young 20-somethings going out and partying, because I don't know when it happened and I don't know how it happened, but I feel old. I'm 26 currently, I'm almost 27, and the thought of going out like that makes me tired just even thinking about it. So in some senses, this is a bit of an unusual book for me, but I'm really excited to read it and see what sort of things it holds. I'm imagining there's going to be lots of partying, going out, having fun with your friends, and obviously the backdrop of New York, that'd be amazing to read about. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I think it should be a fairly fun, easy read, I hope. And then the second book that I picked up is this one, The Trees by Percival Everett. And I first saw this book when it was longlisted for the Booker Prize. And when the long list came out, I went on their website and looked at all the different blurbs. And this one sounded really interesting. And I've just seen when I picked it up that it's now been shortlisted. So I would love to read it before the winner's announced, see what I thought of it. It's a much more serious book that covers some really horrible and heartbreaking things and themes. So I know this book actually features a real person. On the blurb it mentions Emmett Till. I'll read it out. It says, "The Trees is a page turner that opens with a series of brutal murders in the rural town of Money, Mississippi. When a pair of detectives from the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation arrive, they meet expected resistance from the local sheriff, his deputy, the coroner, and a string of racist white townsfolk. The murders present a puzzle, for at each crime scene there is a second dead body, that of a man who resembles Emmett Till, a young black boy lynched in the same town 65 years before. The detectives suspect that these are killings of retribution, but soon discover that eerily similar murders are taking place all over the country. Something truly strange is afoot. As the bodies pile up, the FBI detectives seek answers from a local root doctor who has been documenting every lynching in the country for years, uncovering a history that refuses to be buried. In this bold, provocative book, Everett takes direct aim at racism and police violence, and does so in a fast-paced style that ensures the reader can't look away. The Trees is an enormously powerful novel of lasting importance. And the story of Emmett Till is a really, really sad one. I'll read it out here because I don't want to butcher it. But Emmett Till was a 14-year-old African-American boy who was abducted, tortured, and lynched in Mississippi in 1955 after being accused of offending a white woman, Caroline Bryant, in her family grocery store. So this book is going to be really heavy, but I think a really important read. And I'm hoping that I learn lots from this book. It seems to me like there's some sort of magical realism in it, which I normally gravitate towards. I love Murakami for that reason. And I'm really interested to read something that has that magical realism element whilst talking about something super important and hopefully teaching me some things about it. So I'm really intrigued to read this book and hopefully learn some new things. So I've got two very different books here to cover in this reading vlog. So I'm very intrigued to see what I'm going to think of them both, and I'm excited to get started reading them. So I'm about midway through this book, well, sort of, just less than halfway through this book, and not much has happened yet, really, to be honest. At the moment, it's just talking about all the people they've met along the way and the relationships they're building with people in New York. I really like it so far. I think my favourite character is, I think it's Isa or Issa. She's one of the best friends. She seems to have her head screwed on a little bit more than the other one. The other one seems like she'll just like act out and say inappropriate stuff to people and not really read the room. But Issa, she seems to be thriving in New York, to be honest. She's made quite a few friends. She's got loads of contacts. And everyone's like, how do you know all these people in New York already? So she's getting on really well. I love seeing their journey together. I love seeing them like sort of navigate life. They're like in their early 20s, I think they're 21. So there's still a lot of learning to do and growing up and stuff. And I love reading that. I feel like it's going to be one of those books where nothing really happens. It just sort of shows their life, which I'm not mad at. I quite like that sometimes. So yeah, I'm going to read a bit more of that now and see how we get on with it. So I'm about 3/4 of the way through this book, you can see here, and I'm enjoying it. However, I feel like it's getting a tiny bit repetitive in the sense that they literally go out every night and that's all they've really spoken about at the moment. It is showing how this constant need for short-term enjoyment and short-term happiness is starting to wear thin for them both. I mean, the two friends, so they're called Isa and Gala, and their relationship is getting a little bit strained now due to money problems, and then both sort of being selfish as you are in your early 20s and sort of focusing on their lives and wanting to better their lives and their relationships. And you can see how this sort of impacts their personal relationships, their really close friendship. It does feel really far-fetched in the sense that it's these two young girls who have come to New York. They've got no plans, hardly any money, and yet they find themselves in the circles of like the rich and successful, and everyone asks them what they're up to, and they're like, oh, we're just here, just living in New York. So it does feel, I mean, I don't know because I've never gone to live in New York at the age of 21, but it does feel a bit far-fetched. And sometimes you want that in a book, you want that escapism, you want that sort of unrealistic fantasy. I just wish there was something more from this book. I wish there was another layer to it, but I've still got a quarter left, so I'm intrigued to see how it ends. So I'll carry on reading and we'll see. So I finished this book. Sorry, it's so bright. I feel like you can't even see this. Maybe if I do that. Yeah, it's so bright outside, which I can't complain about. But I have just finished this book and overall, I enjoyed it. For me, it was probably around 3 stars. I think just after I left you and I told you about the book so far, you heard a lot more about Isa's background in terms of her family life, her mum, her upbringing, which I think really added that extra element that I was looking for in the book. Up to that point, it did feel very frivolous, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing. I think it captured the romance of New York very well and the adventure of it all, them exploring the city, trying to get by on little money. I really did like that. Another element I really loved about this book is the way that it talks about fashion. The girls are really into glamour, fashion. They really love what they wear. And as someone who works in the fashion industry, I really enjoyed that and I found that really fun. So overall, I thought it was a good, solid little book. If you're into fashion and you like the idea of living in New York, living your best life, struggling to get by, going out, having parties, I would definitely recommend this book for that. So I'm about halfway through this book so far and I'm absolutely loving it. I think the characters are so well written. I think the whole book is just so well written. I'm absolutely flying through it. I think another reason for that is the chapters are quite short, so it just makes it a much quicker read for me. As well as that, I am so hooked on the story, like I'm racing through it because I just need to know what happens. I think Percival Everett merges the murder mystery in this book along with historical events of Emmett Till so well, so that you're just so hooked right from the start. I also think Percival's really good at giving the book space to breathe, in the sense that he doesn't overcomplicate it. He really just lets the information sink in and gives you the time to really process it and just take in what's being said, which I think is just so effective. I think because we are talking about such awful and harrowing topics, that sometimes you need that, and I think a lot of the time that can have the most impact. I love the way Percival talks about characters. It's set in Mississippi and there are so many different personalities and people, and I just think he just writes about them so well. They're all so different and they've got their own unique quirks, and I love hearing about them. I feel like rather than tell you how a character's feeling or their thoughts on something, he'll just show you through their actions and how they interact with other people, how they react to certain situations. So it's a really subtle way of telling you about a character and unveiling a character, which I really like in the story, and I think works really, really well. So I'm going to try and finish it tonight because I honestly just need to know what happens right now. So yeah, I'll finish this tonight hopefully and then let you know my thoughts tomorrow. So last night I finished this book and I honestly thought it was amazing. I would definitely rate it 4.5 or 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was so well written. Like I said before, the characters are really well thought out. I thought they were really well written. I thought Percival carried you through the story really well, and the whole time I was completely hooked, literally racing to try and finish this book to see what happened. And the end is not what I expected. Obviously I won't spoil it for anyone. and I feel like it was so well deserved of being shortlisted for the Booker Prize. I now want to go and read the whole shortlist, because if they're all this good, then that's amazing. But yeah, I 100% recommend this book. I think obviously the whole book is about racism, so just be mindful of that if you are wanting to get this book. But I think it was so well written. I think Percival absolutely nailed it. And I don't know how many books they've got out, but I immediately want to go out and buy every book that Percival Everett has ever written. I think they were honestly incredible, and I love this book so much. Highly recommend it. So these are my 2 books that I read. I think some really solid reads there. I really enjoyed talking through it as I was reading. I think it really helped me to just to think about how I was feeling about the book. Because sometimes you read a book and you're like, did I even enjoy that? I can't really tell. But I think actually talking about it and making mental notes about what you enjoyed, maybe what you didn't enjoy, I actually think makes it a much fuller reading experience. So I'll definitely be doing that again. But yeah, these are my 2 books. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one.